Welcome back, Super Centex Podcast with Chad, Michael, and Brice. Gentlemen, I was just telling Chad, always good to see you guys, no matter what mood you're in.
Yeah, Chad is going through it today, guys.
We've all been there. Sports trauma.
Worst drug ever invented.
It's true. Well, let's talk some Central Texas high school sports. That probably will be an easier topic for Chad.
Yeah, nice and
safe.
Whatever. Yeah.
So now we know where everybody is headed for the next couple of school years, as UIL realignment and redistricting arrived on Monday. We knew some things ahead of time in terms of where everybody was headed classification-wise. But in terms of the actual districts, that still remains a secret until realignment day. What were your biggest takeaways from realignment?
I'll let Michael start since he was right there in the middle of everything.
Yeah, just for the record, that was my first time kind of being there at the scene to see all the coaches, go through the packets and that kind of madness scene at the Region 12 Education Center. It was a lot of fun.
I'm Facebook friends with Vince Erickson, who works over at Fox 44, had a long time at Channel 25 as a sports anchor. And he saw somebody's post yesterday and said, I do not miss this at all. And I was thinking, dude, I loved realignment day. I mean, like you said, Michael, it's a wild scene.
It is. And just in terms of, general takeaways and stuff, I think there was kind of a lot to behold. In fact, I think it's one of those, like, when you're there at the scene, you kind of, it would be easy to get overwhelmed by all the districts and all the classifications. So you kind of have to break it up. And what I did first, I was like, hey, where did China Spring end up? And so I started there. And, there were some mock alignments that I saw this week last week before Monday's actual day that, I mean, it had them maybe even going in like an Austin area district. And I was like, ooh, that might be tough on the travel side. But where they ended up with, they're with Gerald. I think their longest trip is Marble Falls in that district, Stephenville. So there's a few trips involved there, but I mean, heck, you ask Josh Gregory and those guys, it's better than the Austin area.
Right. Unfortunately, the UIL is smart about how it only breaks them up into Division I and Division II for football. The other sports, they wait till the playoffs to break them up, kind of like they do in 6A for football, which to me is smart because then, you still have China Spring in with familiar teams in Central Texas in basketball and other sports,
Right. Well, just to clarify, so China Spring made the jump from 4A Division II to 4A Division I. They're with Burnett, Gerald, Lampasas, Marble Falls, and Stephenville. So, one trip down 35, several others down 281. If you take 84 out that way, and then one to Stephenville, I don't know what highway goes that way, but so again, I think it could have been a lot worse. That's kind of how I wrote it in our story this week. Was it's not ideal. It's not as convenient as the district we had the last 2 years with Gatesville, Connolly, La Vega, Lorena, China Spring, and Robinson, that whole bunch, but. That was probably my biggest takeaway. The other one was Lorena going down, and I mean they're going to be seeing some pretty familiar faces too, which I think is going to be a lot of fun to get into.
Franklin, McGregor, Troy, all those.
Is that the exact same district from which Lorena won state?
So it's actually an 8-team district now, and which includes Caldwell now. Caldwell was in and out. Franklin wasn't in it those first 2 years, but now all later in there, and that's going to be fun.
That Burnett, the China Spring district, you got Burnett and Gerald both making road trips to Stephenville and vice versa, and that's a long way.
True.
That's one of the things that I joked about with you guys yesterday. You got Crawford going into that district with Mart and Hubbard, and that's kind of going towards, that direction. I always think of going towards College Station that way with Mart, and of course Hubbard is like kind of going to Corsicana. Well, they got Santo in their district, and Santo is all the way over north of where my parents live in Granbury, and north
Right.
of I-20. So
I know.
it's almost like a totally different part of the state.
Right.
It's pretty wild. What
Uh,
Um,
what
Go
were
ahead.
yeah, Chad, what were some of your takeaways?
Well, another thing I mentioned to you guys was that great volleyball district where
I
you
was
have
just going to bring that up. That's going to
State
be really
Clifton.
good.
Yep.
Hmm.
Coming in, Lorena coming down to 3A and being in that volleyball district. West and Troy, who always fields some really good volleyball teams. Brice, you mentioned in that text thread that Hamilton has an outstanding 2A D1 volleyball team, and now they'll be in 3A. That's going to be a tough road for the Lady Bulldogs, though.
Yes, but they were really good.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's going to be a highly competitive volleyball district. You're right.
So
What
just to bring up real quick, Bryce. So next year when all of them get together, you're going to have a state runner-up in Clifton. You're going to have a 2A Division One regional finalist in Hamilton moving up to 3A, McGregor, Rapoport, and then a 3A Division One regional finalist in Troy. And then, as you mentioned, West is always good too. So that just goes to show what type of talent is
did
going
you
to be in
mention,
there.
Lorena?
And
Mhm.
then Lorena, yeah. Which I think were they a area round or third
You know,
round?
they went to
4A,
I
they
think they
went to the
lost in by
state
district.
tournament.
by
Like, what
district.
was
Okay.
it? Maybe 2022 they went to the state tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
And uh honestly, had a really good regular season, you know. So yeah, that's gonna be, and that they have a Lorena has a lot of young volleyball players coming back too. So that'll be a lot of fun. Clifton, West, and Troy have been together, you know, so
Hmm.
they're pretty familiar. But now you add Lorena and Hamilton into that mix.
Hmm.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Of course, as the recently retired Midway beat writer, I was interested to see how the Panthers would come out. Um, Obviously, it pretty much turned out like we thought it would, but I think, you know, if you're Brad Shelton, you're probably always sweating it a little bit just because
Sure.
they did go north one time, you know, and
Hmm.
Midway's kind of there by itself in terms of the northernmost of those schools in that district. Um, and so to end up with Temple and Harker Heights and Cove and Lake
Lake
Belton
Belton
coming
moving
up,
up. Yeah.
I think that works out perfectly for Midway. There's short trips, there are teams you're familiar with. It's a good district. I mean, they have Harker Heights has kind of had their number, but it'll be, it's a good district for them. Obviously, then you have to go play the District of Doom in
Well,
by district. At least you get DeSoto out of there, but as Michael pointed out, what you get North Crowley coming in.
North Crowley, which not this past year, but the year before went 16-0 as a newer school and won the 6A Division One, yeah, title. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah, I
tough.
mean
It's
that's
tough to get through by district when you're going up against that district.
So another thing about I think we mentioned before back when we were starting to look at possibilities that Lake Belton Midway could produce some good rivalries in a lot of sports.
A lot of sports. I mean, obviously Lake Belton girls basketball's on a heater. Uh, they've been exceptional in volleyball, in softball,
Soccer,
base,
right?
baseball, yeah, soccer,
Rivers had some good teams,
girls
yeah.
soccer.
Baseball, softball, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm with you, Chad. I think that may be a new burgeoning rivalry, Midway and Lake
Hmm.
Belton. Should be a lot of fun. All right,
As my
well,
friend Robin would say, it has good uniform aesthetic too. You know, the red and blue for uh, for Midway, and then I guess
We're
is
like
is
red and white
red and
with some
white.
gray. They
how
have
is
some
it
gray
that
in there.
Belton ISD adds a new school, but they just keep the same color palette?
That's a good point. Should ask Belton ISD about that.
I don't ask Belton ISD anything. They don't like me. I say, away. We just kind
Oh,
of get
that's
along
true. I forgot
better.
about that.
Yeah.
That is a
Chad
that
had
is
a
a
run
story for
in with
another
a
time.
scorers table in Belton one time.
And say,
Um,
I've had run ins with all kinds of folks in Belton in my life. And
oh
nothing
boy.
against them. Very nice community. Just, I'm a fighter and they got fighters and we fight. I guess that's the way it goes.
We need Chad to be a lover, not a fighter. Um, so
I don't think that's happening.
one more realignment note before we kind of move on. We talked about it some before about the possibility of this happening. It did happen where Rapoport moved up to Class 3A despite the Ravens turning in a 2A enrollment number. Now, Michael got some clarification from the UIL. UIL instituted a charter school exception um, to put Rapoport in 3A. Um, so, what is y'all's take on this? Is this fair? Is it not fair?
Well, I say charter schools kind of put themselves in a position where they're going to get maybe pushed around a little bit because
More of a magnifying
it,
glass?
well, and it's like maybe people don't see this. People see this as unfair, but the traditional school in UIL is, you know, Clifton High School is the high school in that town, and that's where the kids in that town go. And whatever, how many kids Clifton, Texas produces, that's how many kids are in the school, and that's how many kids they turn in and for enrollment. That's how the UIL sort of operates. And for private schools and charter schools, it kind of throws off the equation. So they're like, they'll kind of put them where they need them, I guess. You know?
Yeah, and it sounded to me like, yeah, I don't have clarification on this or verification on this. It sounded to me like they needed more 3A schools because Rappaport wasn't the only one moved up, by policy was the term they used.
Mm-hmm.
But Rappaport was right on that line. I think the cutoff was 245.9 was the ceiling of 2A, and they, were 9/10 of a student below that. So by the numbers, they were 2A. But, the UIL decided to move them up.
Well, you
This is,
guys saw my text to y'all. I mean, I said that, like,
mhm.
hey, we need a 3A team. You're going 3A. Uh,
Right.
so here's what I'll say. First of all, I think I said this on the on One True podcast. I told Zach, I said, look, we're not a hot take podcast. We have a little more nuance and sort of perspective. Uh, I think it's always easy to lob grenades at the NCAA or the UIL from afar, if you know those people that work there, they work hard, they have a lot of tough decisions. Uh, that was my setup to say, all that said, I feel like this rule is pretty friggin' arbitrary. And um, to me, if you turn in a certain enrollment number, uh, you should be in that enrollment. Especially since they invoke this thing where, well, you're in Waco ISD boundaries, but you're not actually Waco ISD.
Right.
But see, but that's why it makes sense to me though, because like I said, my Clifton analogy, Clifton has the kids that live in Clifton, right?
Hmm.
And Rappaport could all of a sudden say, well, within a cycle, they could say, you know what, we got this long waiting list, we're gonna let in 50 more kids.
I get that, but they do have a long waiting list, and they don't like just expand for the sake of expanding or
No, I know, and they may not have the room to expand, right?
No,
right.
But the
they
UIL
have like
doesn't
a
know
sweet
that when they're
spot.
sorting that out.
Right. Yeah, they have like
UIL
a
can't
sweet
go to all
spot they
these
want to
charter.
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
The UIL can't go to all these charter schools and measure their facilities and see where they're at. So if
Right.
they look at the ISD and they say there's this many kids, you know,
And
put them
Michael,
in three A.
didn't you say, now maybe the UIL didn't phrase it exactly this way, but that when Rappaport was first asking about this,
Yeah.
that the comment that they basically got from the UIL was, well, y'all are good in basketball, you'll be just fine.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those deals like you guys are successful, and I mean, I guess they were just pointing to the fact that they won the 2A Division One state title last year. But I mean, but here's the issue with that though. I mean, I went and did some looking today at just like enrollment figures in 3A among some of those like state ranked basketball teams at the moment, which obviously maybe their enrollment 2 years ago was different, but I mean. Rapoport, in theory, could maybe let's say next year Rapoport's really good and has to meet up with another 3A Division two school like San Antonio Cole, which is where Shaq went to.
Yes.
They for this new cycle they submitted an enrollment of 425 kids, and they were in 3A Division two last year in the playoffs and will be this year. Maybe they'll be 3A Division one next year. We don't know because they obviously split it up when the postseason starts in basketball. It's not like football where they're already split. But I mean, that's nearly 200 kids more. I mean, like I just look, my mom always told me life's not fair, and I get that. So I've always had to bite my tongue with a lot of things, but I mean, that to me is a real problem when Rappaport has 245 students and can't pick as much as a San Antonio Cole. Or
It's
I mean, there's other schools I could list too.
it's 4:48 on a Tuesday afternoon. I think if we just stick to it long enough on this podcast, we can solve all of Texas' educational problems.
Good luck with
Love
that.
it.
All right. Well, we'll move on that note. I do feel like there's some follow-up stories that could be done here, Michael, just
Sure.
from a house cleaning standpoint. But yeah, it's I mean, I think the UIL probably was backed into a corner a little bit, needed some 3A schools, and found the loophole to make that happen. All right, so high school basketball coaches have a really challenging job. In boys basketball, they tend to take a back seat to football in Texas. I mean, probably in a lot of states, but certainly in Texas. Sometimes they're having to build teams on the fly. They get their guys, maybe December or whenever. Um, and a lot of times the girls' coaches are dealing with some of the same issues. If you have a really good volleyball program and girls are playing both sports. Um, so all that said, what Central Texas basketball coach is doing the best coaching job this season? And you can kind of define that however you want. It doesn't have to be because they got a late start.
I guess kind of what we're doing is we're sort of setting a precursor for our Super Centex Coach of the
Sure,
Year
but there's still
candidates.
I mean, it
basketball
could
to
be a
be
factor.
played.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
could be a factor that
Our escape hatch there is by saying stuff will still happen that will affect
It's our
it.
scratch pad for it.
Yeah.
right.
I had a story that ran on Lorena in today's print edition and online. And Coach Morris, Hillary Morris, had a nice time visiting with her about her introduction to Lorena and kind of how things have been developing with her, along with kind of doing a story on their seniors, Summer Johnson and Avery Jesperson. One thing that I was really impressed with Coach Morris is she's implementing, kind of what La Vega and Fairfield do, is like just harass you all the way down the court, full court press. And, I asked her, do you think you can get to that level? Like, do it the way those teams do it? And she was like, well, I mean, we did it against them. And so, and to some effectiveness, I guess you would say, and against some teams, they've done it really well. And I had an interesting moment in that, and kind of a moment of clarity of being like, man, that is what makes them so good, which I've noticed before. We were talking about Fairfield because Coach Morris, we got into the nitty gritty. Michael, you would have been jealous because we got into the really in the weeds of coaching, philosophy and press dynamics and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that second level is having a little bit of a hard time kind of knowing all the decisions that those players have to make. And then that's when the light went on that they had played Fairfield. And
twice, I think they played them twice.
Yeah. And I think God created Blake Brackens to be a second level press player. I mean, when that ball goes up on a long down court pass, she's like a panther, and she goes and gets it and creates buckets that way. But Lorena is second in that district, and I think probably playing with the idea that we want to keep playing, no matter who we're playing, we're going to play like we want to keep playing. And then a couple of other names I'll just mention just to steal them from you is Kendra Atkinson at West.
She's doing a good job there.
and Britt Campbell at Gatesville. And you can elucidate on either of those if you had them on your list.
No, I didn't. I mean, I had maybe a few of those names. I have some other names, and I won't try to say too many here because I'll, you know, want to make sure to leave some for Brice. But I
You've seen
think
like 750 of our
I
area
know.
teams
Knock
play
yourself
this
out.
year.
I gotcha. I think when it comes to like, I'll define my big answer here as like best coaching job in terms of X's and O's and getting the most out of your like what you're given. I think it's Kyle Combs at Live Oak. I mean, Brice, you saw them last year. Like when you lose Tristan Wilson and Wes Snowden and Creighton Polnick, you could on a surface say, well, they only lost three seniors. Tristan Wilson holds like career records there, points, steals, I mean, Wes Snowden, I
Yeah,
think holds,
those were the
yeah,
core of your team, your state,
yeah,
finalist team, and to
yeah.
just hit the reset button and basically be playing even better.
I was gonna say they're even more dominant this year. I mean, they are on a freaking tear, beating some really good teams. There were stretches of this season where I was looking at them like, are they going to lose another game? And I think a lot of that, yes, it falls on the players. The players are hitting shots, they can shoot the lights out. They're making great plays, but like Kyle Combs does a great job of scheming them up and getting those guys open and knowing how to put those guys in the right positions to succeed. He has a good little rotation going. He knows when to sub guys and in what spots, what defenses to run. Like you can tell. And then another thing, it's not just Kyle Combs. Like when you watch them on the bench, him and his assistants, like they have this college feel to them. I may have mentioned this on the podcast before. Like it looks like Scott Drew's bench. They're all wearing the same things. They all have like a certain set of responsibilities. You can tell they're all engaged in different ways and doing different things, and it's really impressive to see. So I mean, to me, I think Kyle Combs is far and away doing maybe the best job in Central Texas, and he's probably pound for pound one of the best, just hands down coaches in this area too.
Nice. Um, another one that I will mention just is True Rice. I mean, obviously our reigning Super Centex Coach of the Year on the boys' side, well deserved, with his historic season for Rapoport last year. But um, they're they're ranked in the top 10, right, Michael?
Number 5 or 6,
Yeah,
and they
and
also them just like Rappaport graduated some heavy hitters.
you're right, exactly. And I think everyone kind of expected them to take a dip, and the fact that they're playing as well as they are shows that he's got something going there. And so, yeah, give it up for Coach Rice. That would be probably my choice. Obviously, you guys see the games, so I'm just kind
Mhm.
of going off um, records and stuff. But
Can I mention two more
sure,
similar to Coach Rice? I mean, and these are just kind of like honorable mentions. I won't get too deep in the weeds here, but Stephen Massington at Marlin. I mean, guys, they entered the year state ranked, and I kind of looked at that like, like do they know they graduated like 8 seniors and all of those guys were like that was one of the best Marlin
Mm-hmm.
teams ever, and it's one of the best teams. I know they didn't win the state championship that year, but that was one of the best two-way basketball teams I've ever seen. They were really good. And he
Mm-hmm.
has them in position to win an outright district championship again. And heck, maybe I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying they'll make the state semifinals again, but I mean, they're going to be another really, really good team in 2A to watch out for. And then Ricardo Felix at University, I wanted to shout out. There's not a lot of coaches in this area who could lose London Smith to early graduation and still put out a team that's capable of winning a district with Colleen Ellison and Belton and Colleen Chaparral. Like that's not easy. So I think he also deserves a shout out for the coaching job he's doing.
yeah, no doubt. Well, speaking of London Smith, obviously he signed back in December, but it's Tuesday as we record this podcast, and so tomorrow we will be busy covering a bunch of local kids, finalizing their college decisions on National Signing Day 2. Uh, Technically, I guess it's 3, but it's 2 for football. Um, so even though December has really supplanted February as the big signing day for the Power Four schools, the big D1 schools, We still actually have some Division One bound players in signing ceremonies on Wednesday. Um, Among them, Midway lineman Jordan Anderson, he's headed to Abilene Christian. Mart lineman Colton Cordova, who's going to Lamar. And Methodist home linebacker London Bickham, he's headed to UTSA. Um, so, my question is this: knowing what transfer portal has done to recruiting and how kids in high school sometimes aren't getting as many shots because colleges are going after transfer portal guys. Does that make these kind of events even more special?
Man, that's an interesting question and a tough one to answer. Um,
I mean, they're always special for the kid,
yeah, for
whoever
Oh
sure,
yeah,
for
no
signs.
sure.
doubt.
I think I think anybody who watches college football right now, college sports in general, there's this kind of deep sigh in the back of your mind that things have gotten to where they've gotten to, right? And you're not even talking about signing like in December being that important because probably financial agreements have already been signed before those signings even happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like all the stuff has been done for these kids to enroll. We're not getting to see London Smith play basketball because it's become the norm for these kids to stop their high school careers at 3.5 years and go on because it's so important to get in college for that extra semester as a freshman. Um, so when I see these names and these guys going Abilene Christian, Lamar, and UTSA, I really am like, good for them. Good for them for getting a shot. And then I kind of have to weigh it against all that other stuff in the back of my head. And you mentioned transfer portal, and you think, these. I mean, honestly, these guys going to be good if they go and excel at these places. Then they're going to have a chance to, move
Yeah,
up to the.
and you hate it for those schools who don't want to be a feeder program for
Mhm,
Mhm.
other schools.
mhm.
Um, you know, it's it's nice when you have guys that do stick around and appreciate what maybe a smaller off the radar school has to offer. Um, but you also get it that guys want to play in big stadiums and maybe have
Mhm.
NIL opportunities and all of the things that come with big time college football.
But
Michael,
also like we're all smart enough to know, and like we've all covered high school sports long enough and college and at least seen college sports enough. Like we're not blaming these college coaches for saying, hey, would I benefit more from signing an 18-year-old freshman for my win now program as opposed to getting a
right?
junior guard or a grad transfer or whatever wide receiver quarterback out of the portal?
Well,
Like we're but at the same time, like our heart does hurt for the high school kids because it's just so brutal nowadays to try to, pave that path to not only getting to that level, but becoming an instant player.
You know,
there's less guesswork for the college coaches to take a guy out of the transfer portal because you've
Correct.
seen what he can do on the college level.
hmm
Maybe it's a
hmm
different level of college, but it's still college, and so we've known for a long time that high school recruiting is a very inexact science.
Right.
I think there's a path now that's a noble path, and that somebody goes somewhere. I'm thinking of like somebody like Kavion Gaither who went to Sam Houston for 4 years, and I don't want to project too much on his experience, but here's a guy that was a great high school football player here, went there, made an impact early, stayed there 4 years, and I know him. I used to see him at Gold's Gym from time to time and chat with him a little bit. And he was a great one to cover. He was a great interview in high school. And you just like to think somebody goes there, finds a community, finds success on a team, stays there 4 years, plays, and has a great college experience. The way so many kids used to have great college experiences by going to one town, living there for 4 years, making their life there.
That
Yeah,
has gone from being the norm to the minority or exception. Like you don't see that often. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Mhm.
no doubt. Uh, I got a bonus question for y'all because this is one I had thought of and I forgot to put it on the questions, but Chad made me remember it. Chad, you referenced this growing trend of, top recruits graduating high school in December so that
Hmm.
they can go and enroll and be there for spring football and potentially be a little ahead of the game, maybe more ready to play in the
Hmm.
fall.
Hmm.
Um, this has been happening now for a number of years, but it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Um, and let me preface this question by saying, look, again, just like Michael said, we're not blaming the kids or whatever. Um, we get that there's probably some pressure to do it, and they want to succeed on the college level, and so they're, uh, you know. But here's my question: like, do you think they're missing something, like in terms of prom and
Yeah, you're
graduation
exactly.
and your last semester of high school and all the things that come with being 18 years old and all the lasts. I mean, I have the last of my children going through all of it right now. Um, and again, we know Stacy Smith, we know Rodney Smith. I'm sure they have had these conversations with London. This is what you're going to miss. But Mike, do they miss something? Are they missing out?
I think so. I mean, I remember sitting in my car going to lunch with Casey Fossum when we were about 2 weeks from graduating, and he was waiting on the draft to see where he was going to go, see if he was going to go to Major League Baseball or Texas A&M. And obviously it's probably still different for baseball players, but I just you don't get that time in your life back, and gosh, I mean, as much as we all love college football and whatever, it's like you go into that realm, and like last night, I was at Texas Tech's game, 15,000 fans there, and they come out with the uh, starting lineups, and Christian Anderson, Tech star point guard, not in the starting lineup. There's no injury report with him on it, whatever. Well, he got a stomach bug and he didn't feel good. And everybody in that stadium was let down. And it's not his fault. He has a stomach bug. But that's the world you're entering into. Is like if you get sick and have a stomach bug, 15,000 people are disappointed.
Yeah,
Hmm.
So,
it's a tough world.
yeah, yeah.
It's basically pro sports light. I mean,
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is.
Michael, what do you think?
I, I mean, I think they are missing out on some stuff. I bring a little bit of a unique perspective to this because I was a remote student my senior year of high
Mm-hmm.
school.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated in 2021. We were coming off the pandemic, and so I was not in school, in-person school my entire senior year of high school, but
Yeah.
I still went to prom. I still got to walk across the football field and graduate and with my friends and do all the normal senior things. So I think it's one of those deals where and this is kind of an easy way out answer. I think it's case by case. There might be some kids out there who that stuff really matters a lot to them. They want to, they go to a class 2A or 3A school and everyone knows each other and they want to be right there with them. But there also might be some kids that are like, I benefit more from enrolling early and getting a head start on my what I hope is a prolific college career and doing it that way. So I think again it's case by case. Some kids probably love it, and some kids. I mean, in actuality though, a lot of these kids aren't really going to know what they're missing out on because they're not experiencing it. So
True that.
And a lot of them have been in the public eye already because they were a high profile, recruits.
And if
And
they're going to
so,
play on
yeah.
Sundays someday, I
right.
mean, I get it.
Hmm.
Uh, here's what I will say though. So there's a country song that's out right now that has the hook is life might be a lot of things, but it won't be long. Uh,
Mm.
and the idea is that life goes pretty friggin' fast. And if you have children, which neither of you do, but this, like it just you blink and it's like, okay, where did that year go? Uh,
Hmm.
so they get 18 years at home and then they go out and do their thing. And so I feel that tug as a parent, like I just want to hold on
Right.
to them a little bit longer.
There,
Um,
There's
And
another quote from the TV series True Detective. And Matthew McConaughey's character says, "Life's barely long enough to get good at one thing. Be careful what it is you get good at."
it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
that's
dropping
good.
some profound truth bombs here, courtesy of other people's writing. But uh, all right. Well, we're not trying to make any of those kids who graduated early feel bad or
Right.
anything, but yeah, I do think, as Michael said, for certain kids, that's got to at least play into their decision making. Like,
Hmm.
what am I going to miss? What I would have missed? Uh, one more semester of slacking off. That
Right.
was my high school. I did get another day of skipping school in there in that spring semester.
Well,
True.
I played church league basketball with a guy named David Maxwell from Midway that went on to play. He had signed with A&M, and he went on to play there and was a standout in college as a defensive lineman. And do you think he would have traded anything for that church league championship that we won?
You see, now you always get on to Michael and I for bringing up our pickup basketball, but
Yeah.
I think this is back-to-back podcasts where
I
we might have
know.
gotten your church
Yeah.
league exploits. So
They,
good
they were they
stuff.
were heady times, my friends, heady times.
All right, we have like just a couple minutes left. Chad's not going to a game tonight, but Michael, you're headed to.
Gatesville at China Spring. See the girls and the boys game. Gatesville, by the way, big win over La Vega boys
Leading the
last week.
district,
Yeah,
leading the district,
Yeah,
Gatesville
leading
is.
the district in the
5-0.
which
Yeah.
that was
Mhm.
Uh,
the first La Vega boys district loss since 2023. So big
and
deal.
then, as I mentioned, we'll be making the rounds tomorrow for signing day, and of course, be covering some high school basketball later in the week. We'll make those decisions later, but appreciate y'all, and yeah, smile. You have so much to live for.
See
See ya.
you guys.